Hello and welcome to Random Offense. I'm Ethan Strauss. Here is the place where we explore the overlap between sports, culture, sometimes even politics. And I am overjoyed, thrilled, ecstatic to be joined by my friend Amin Elhassan, former ESPNer, which is going to be pertinent to our first topic. Let's bring on Amin. I want to get to it early. Sometimes I do a little thoughtful monologue, Amin, but there is news and I want to get to it. Late breaking news about what happened to our careers. Are you aware of this, Amin? Have you seen this?
No, I'm more focused on are those plants real or are those fake plants behind you?
I'm pretty sure that they are fake, and that will be a good segue to the
There you
topic
go.
that we are about to discuss, in addition to some other rich and fruitful ESPN topics. Now, producer Trace, I want you to pull this up. I want you to pull up this article for us, get some imagery. And as you're doing that, I'll remind people that you can potentially ask questions and raise your hands. Maybe you think we're being unfair. I don't know. Adrian Wojnarowski, famed newsbreaker, insists he played no role in ESPN firing NBA staff ahead of 2017 arrival. Now, Amin, I think the theme of the show today is going to be this. Often in our dynamic, I will say something and you will reach out to me in private that I am holding back and you will curse me for my cowardice. Okay.
Hmm.
For years, my public position on Adrian Wojnarowski, who arrived at ESPN, and all of a sudden I was fired from ESPN along with the other people that he had issues with. My position is that I did not
Coincidence.
know. My position was I did not know. I did not know if it was his decision to fire me. I also did not care in the end. Whatever happened to my career was what happened, but I did not know. I almost
This is
sounded,
true.
yeah, I almost sounded like Hyman Roth, but about my own career when he was saying about Mo Green getting killed that it had
Yeah.
nothing to do with me. That's kind of how I felt about it, even though it had everything to do with me. That look. I didn't ask questions. It was business. But I want to talk about this because I don't know. It gets to something right here. You could accuse us of being self-indulgent, but I find it fascinating. Woj was the lead newsbreaker at ESPN. Woj shaped a lot of ESPN's coverage. It became more about breaking news and, frankly, more about kissing the asses of agents and GMs. That's just what the strategy was. He left to go to his alma mater, St. Bonnie's, to run their program. I
Totally his
thought we were
decision.
finally, I thought his decision officially. Unlike what happened here. I thought we were going to get some honesty. I mean, I thought that I was finally going to get a revelation. He went on with Andrew Marchand, sports media guy, and I gotta say, I think I've joined your team on this one. I think Woj might have gotten me fired.
I told Ethan this literally the day he got fired.
Yeah,
The
everybody did.
day you got fired.
Yeah,
I told you this.
yeah.
And I connected dots, and I don't know if we're going to reveal those dots that I connected for you on that day and for Henry and for everyone else. But
Hmm.
because to put it in perspective, Ethan, you all were laid off in, I want to say April,
May.
in May.
Yeah.
But Adrian had not been announced at that point, and even after he'd been announced, it was July 1, although they did the technicality of June 30th at midnight East Coast time or whatever to get him on earlier. But I knew all of these things. And I was pointing out and connecting the dots for Ethan, for Henry, for other people who got laid off. And everyone said I was crazy. No, what are you talking about? No,
Yeah.
that's not that. And then literally everything that I said, and watch this is going to happen, and watch them bring in this person. It all came true. It all came true. But the only thing you need to know as it pertains to Ethan Strauss is when they laid off people, they said this was an official statement that it was kind of, obviously we had to do these cut downs and cut salary, and they try to get places of redundancy. And at the time, most because there was Ed Werder had been laid off, right? So that was it. Well,
Mm.
we let off Ed Werder. We laid off all these other big name older people. All of those people followed the same formula, which was old or older, I should say,
Yeah.
more about the legacy media versus the new kind of
Yeah.
digital
There was an
direction.
era, no offense to them, an era of
And and
old
and
Yeller. It was
and and
yeah.
well, let me say third thing, high salary.
Yeah.
That's a big part of this, high salary, right? So there's some names is like, yeah, man, it sucks, whatever. But then you get to Ethan Strauss, who say he's one of the cheapest people we have. He's covering the most popular team in American sports. And not only is he covering it, he is the longest tenured person covering them other than Marcus Thompson and Tim Kawakami in the market, right? Everyone else had started that beat before. You had started that beat long enough where you
Yeah.
saw the AC
I was
Law
a
days,
kid.
right? But you were there, right? So, okay, so number one, you can't say he's old. He's one of the younger guys. Number two, he makes pennies compared to many of these other cuts. Number three, he's covering our most popular topic right now, and he's tenured in that. He's in deep with the front office, in deep with the coaching staff, in deep with the players. Hell, Draymond Green announced he was donating the largest donation in athlete donation in the history of collegiate athletics. He did it with me and Ethan.
Mm.
He didn't do it on Sports Center. He didn't do it with, some bigger name person. He did it with us because of Ethan, not because of me, right? And then the final, feather in the cap. You say, "Oh, we're moving towards this digital age." Well, Ethan not only was on a very successful podcast and did a lot of digital video stuff, but also at that point in time, and I believe this is still the case, had written the most read article in the history of ESPN.com. More than
He-
Deflategate, more than Tiger Woods is cheating on his wife, more than any of that shit. Ethan's shit was number one. So, like, any reason they gave for cutbacks did not apply at all to Ethan Strauss. You know what Ethan Strauss did have in his background though? A not so
Nice.
nice piece that he wrote prior to being at ESPN
Yeah.
about Adrian Wojnarowski.
Yeah. That I'm 100% sure he read because he angrily DM'd me about it at the time. And look, no bitterness here. It's the game. This is like when you're on a team and they bring in a new coach. New coach's got some issues with you. You're going to get axed. But I always found it interesting. And it's a bigger story that I don't want to make it just about me because the whole group of people got cleared out. This is part
Sure.
of a story, a broader story of ESPN and media, that it went from written articles to video to breaking news. And now it's like a Potemkin village. And I don't even know what it is. And we'll get into more of that as we progress with this conversation. Mark Stein, the leading newsbreaker at ESPN, was ousted, famous Woj enemy. And I guess I look at this, Amin. I'm amused by it. I'm just amused by it. And my feeling is this sense of you don't have to lie to lie.
Mm-hmm.
You can just be a little bit vague. You don't
Yes.
have to have specificity. You don't have to dig in. This whole story, I always maintain the belief. I always maintain the belief, hey, maybe somebody fired me as almost like when the cat presents you the bird it killed and you didn't ask for it, but it's presenting it to you. I wasn't in the room when they made the decision. But then I look at these quotes that Woj has with Marchand. And he says, I remember with ESPN and my conversations before I came, maybe about 7 or 8 seconds about the current staff,
Mm.
Wojnarowski said.
Yeah.
He was brought in and he basically ran the NBA section. Everybody
Yeah.
knows that. Everybody knows he ran ESPN NBA, that he was the top dog, that he dictated
Well,
everything.
I'll tell you, like, even that, he could have gotten away with saying that. Like, I didn't talk to anybody. I don't know anything. I mean, he just kind of made it general. But then he refused to name Mark Stein by name, which
Yeah.
is just like, it's the ultimate, you can't even, within your lie, you can't
Yeah.
even betray yourself, or you
Yeah.
can't
Which
even stop betraying
which
yourself.
is how Khabib reveals his hatred for Conor McGregor, that he never
Yeah.
says his name.
Yeah.
Never says the name. He says
It's,
in this
it's, it's,
article,
yeah. Like, I listened to the clip. It's not that he doesn't say Mark Stein's name. it's he clearly is trying to describe Mark Stein without. It would be like me saying, like the guy with the Substack who often write like you know who the fuck I'm talking about. Say his name, man. Am I allowed to
Yeah.
cuss? I didn't.
Well, he also said he mentioned that ESPN had not been very successful breaking NBA news. And by the way, you
All right.
can cuss. I just want you to know.
Oh,
I'm
thank you.
allowing it. I'm allowing it. I want you to be
Oh,
comfortable. Apologize to any
it
kids
is
listening.
random offense. Yeah.
It is random. I mean, if I
And
said it's
and
random,
you
you
said random
know,
offense. I said random offense.
there you go. It's up for interpretation. I don't
Mm.
want to digress too much, but I saw people pillorying Howard Stern over an old clip of him acting like a creep with Sofia Vergara. And yes, was he acting like a creep? Sure. But she
Yeah.
walked into that Howard Stern studio. I mean,
That's
she
the show.
chose. Like, what did you think was
That's
going to
the
happen?
that's the show. It's like going into a strip club. Like, oh, these women aren't wearing clothes. Like, yeah,
Oh my
that's
God, I
kind of
walked into the
the deal.
octagon and somebody hit me in the face. What's going on?
Well, they
Anywho,
said it'd be
anyway.
good for my career.
Yeah. Former ESPN EVP John Kozner asked me what my relationship, this is Woj, what my relationship was with who you mentioned was the NBA insider at ESPN at the time. The guy who you mentioned, who I won't name, who I
So
definitely didn't get fired.
it's not even I forgot his name. It's you've already said the name. I don't need to say the name.
This is fascinating. I said I don't have a relationship with him. We've been competitors, but I'm sure we would get along great working together. And he said, okay. That was it. That was the only conversation we ever had, and they made decisions. I'm just, it's just amazing to me. It's amazing to me. I think that's one of the reasons why I've loved him so much. I wish he would come back to ESPN. He's such a great muse because he's almost inhuman in his drive and ambition, but ever so human, and he can't hide any of it. And people find it interesting. Those were some of the best articles that I wrote in terms of response and reaction, but always secretly, Amin. Everybody in our industry wanted to read about this guy, but people didn't want to share that they were reading about him. They didn't
I wonder
because
why.
they saw what happened to me.
Yeah, that's. I mean, that's. People think we are being facetious or maybe exaggerating, bloviating. It's real, man. This shit is real. His influence and impact on people's careers directly, not indirectly, but directly. And I know it because he tried to do that shit with me too.
Mm.
That's I told that story before, right?
I
When
mean,
the
you've told a
Kawhi
lot of
Leonard stuff.
Woj stories. Which one? Which one right here?
So the Kawhi Leonard is going through his drama with San Antonio. San
Mm.
Antonio said he's fine. Kawhi Leonard said I don't feel fine, and his proof is like this has happened twice before, where you're saying I'm fine, I get cleared, I get out there, I get hurt again because I didn't feel fine, right? So at this time, San Antonio's leaking left and right. There was a team meeting, and Manu said this, and Tony said that, and all this shit. And San Antonio, the most secretive organization in all of the NBA, perhaps all of sports, all of a sudden we're getting weekly updates. And we
Mm.
know where the weekly updates are coming from, right?
Yep.
Coming from RC Buford's favorite sounding board, Adrian, right? Adrian and
Right with the
RC,
Spurs he was, Woj
they're very
was.
tight with him, right? And that's fine. That's the game, like you said. That's the game.
That's how it is.
That's how it is. So we're on the jump, and Rachel says, at this point, there's been a lot said on both sides. And I stopped her. I said, Rachel, I'm sorry, but there hasn't been a lot said on both sides. There's been a lot said on one side. We getting a lot of play-by-play detail on the Spurs side. We haven't heard anything, not from Kawhi, not from Uncle Dennis, nobody. They've respected the in-house, keep the laundry in-house edict. The Spurs haven't. And so regardless of wherever any side people land on, like let's just understand one thing. San Antonio is the one that is acting out of character in terms of we keep our things in house, right? So I really took the Spurs to task. Adrian calls Kevin Wildes, yes, that same Kevin Wildes, who at the time is the
First
executive
things
producer of The Jump.
first.
Kevin Wildes brings me, I sit down with him. He said, Adrian's saying that you're ripping on his reporting. I said, what? He said, yeah, he's very agitated. I said, look, Kevin, here's the deal. I didn't say anything about the reporting. The reporting is valid. I'm saying that the San Antonio Spurs are leaking in a way that they've never leaked before,
Yeah.
and it's not fair to make this into people have said.
Yeah.
No,
I'm not
they
criticizing
them.
your reporting. I'm
I'm criticizing
criticizing your source.
the truth of the reporting, right? Which is
Yeah.
how your source is behaving. Now, I said I can see how that would make things very uncomfortable between Adrian and San Antonio, but it ain't my job to protect his relationship. My job is to explain things to people based on someone who's worked in this industry. And I did it without disparaging any ESPN employee or ESPN tactic or anything. I disparaged the Spurs. If he's got a problem with the Spurs, he's got to answer that. I don't have to answer to them. I don't work for RC Buford where I got to make him look good. And Kevin was like, good point. And that was the first of many attempts,
Yeah.
again, that have come back to me about Adrian said this, Adrian tried that. And we're not even going to get into the little surrogates
Yeah.
who have also tried.
Well,
But my point is this: he does
yeah.
this. It's not. This isn't like conjecture or us puffing things up. He does this.
He does this, and I do want to get to the questions I'm seeing. I do want to get to it. Christopher Azell, principally, because he's saying that Woj wasn't really lying, I can explain. So I want to see what he's going to explain. But just so this doesn't seem like it's a little grouse session, I'm complimenting him in a way. I think he had a tremendous impact on ESPN and NBA coverage.
For
And I
sure.
think that mentality that we're describing of what happened behind the scenes had a lot to do with, if you were a sports fan, a consumer of sports media, what you saw and how it went. And he had a big vision of how it would go. And the idea was frictionless news breaking. The idea was,
Yeah.
I'm on the biggest platform. I
Mm-hmm.
take care of my sources take care of me. It's all going to run like bada bing, bada boom. And if anybody else at this company is disrupting the happiness of my sources, I'm jumping down their throat.
Right.
And so the way
And by the way,
storytelling, yeah,
there's that and Sideshore infringing upon my sovereignty in these
yes,
sources. San Antonio is
yes.
my beat. It's like you remember
Oh,
was it Beer
cops and
Fest?
movies.
Oh yeah, either Cops and Movies or in Beer Fest when they stop off, they're trying to pick up Barry, right? And he's
I
now
never
working
saw
as
Beer Fest. I'm gonna lie
oh
and
okay.
pretend. Yeah, yeah,
All
yeah,
right,
yeah,
all right.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's if those who know, there's a scene where it's like their buddy Barry who's fallen on hard times. Now he's a male prostitute, and then someone comes like, "Hey, that's my dick, Antonio." Like they're fighting over this is my jurisdiction,
Mm-hmm.
and so he was of that nature as well. He didn't like when people had ins in places that were this is my territory.
Yeah.
Philadelphia, San Antonio, Golden State. These
Mm-hmm.
were places that Adrian felt like these are my places. Who are you to be breaking news without kissing the ring?
Which is an interesting way to view the landscape for people who are nerds about this stuff and people who don't know that when you were watching Woj battle it out with Shams Charania, the young the young guy out of Chicago, they were battling over Midwest territory, and it almost felt like an old gangster movie where they were really fighting it out over a resource, and you were seeing it play out if you could read between the lines of it. But okay, let's get Christopher on here. He's saying that we're being perhaps uncharitable. There isn't lying happening here. And I want to hear the theory. I want to hear what Christopher's got for us. Can we pull him up to the stage? Can we get him on here?
Hey guys, thanks.
Hello,
Oh,
Christopher.
Christopher's
Okay.
got a nice setup.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Backdrop, got a good mic. Go ahead, man.
Hmm.
this is the office. Thanks for speaking with me. Amin, first, I've consumed a ton of your content over the years, and the way I learned about the House of Strauss and became a subscriber to the same was because I had to listen to an interview he did with you.
Oh,
There you go.
okay.
So then Ethan, you hear what that means. Give
What
me
does that mean?
Commission.
Oh,
royalties. Royalties, man.
Yeah,
we'll
but
tally it up. We'll
uh,
find out how much Christopher paid on the credit cards towards the HOS operation. But
oh,
what do you have to
I'm an
say?
annual subscriber, so I think Woj though is being cute with his words. Do you think
Mhm.
Woj would actually do his own dirty work to get people fired? I doubt it. The actual
Mm.
thing he said on the podcast with Marchand is he had an 8-second conversation when he joined ESPN and said Mark Stein was his competitor. Of course, Woj wouldn't do his own dirty work. He wasn't communicating his dollar number he would take with ESPN directly. I'd love to see Marchand ask Matt Kramer, CAA's Matt Kramer, a
Mm.
source of Marchand, Matt Kramer, about whether he mentioned Ethan and Mark Stein about this deal that was coming into place to bring Woj over. So
Yeah.
Woj is playing games with, I didn't say it, I didn't do it. But what he's not saying is nobody from my team said this as a condition of me
Mm.
coming over, which is obviously what Amin, if and I doubt he conveyed his number either. But that those are the types of negotiations that would go between agent at CAA, by the way, also the same agency that represented Mark Stein and other people who got fired, and
And Ethan
them.
Strauss.
And even Strauss.
Yeah. So why don't you ask
That was
Matt Kramer
short-lived.
his perspective on this? I'd love that. Because Matt Kramer, I guarantee you, because he was always Woj's agent. Every time you talked about Woj in it, Matt Kramer negotiated his deal since he was at Yahoo, and it was an awful announcing saying Matt Kramer's been his agent since he throughout his ESPN tenure. Well, of course, Woj wouldn't do his own dirty work. He never did. He would have other minions do it for him.
So, so you're saying this is a little bit like that scene in Casino where the old bosses are figuring out what to do and they're on trial and they've got their fake health ailments, their oxygen tanks, and they're being asked about the people in the skimming operation and the lead boss when he's asked about a guy and everybody else is saying, he's a Marine, he's a stand-up guy, and he shrugs and goes, why take a chance? And it was something, I guess you could theorize it was akin to that, where a list of people was read, and maybe something that this is how I envisioned it too. I envisioned it as not fingerprints on it, but it gets conveyed. And if it gets conveyed, I don't understand the point of running from it. Thank you, Christopher. This is
I,
great
I,
insight.
I
Well
I'm
put.
not, I'm not. Yeah, that sure. I would say yeah, absolutely that. But it's still the general gist of it is that Adrian is responsible, right?
Yeah.
Regardless of whether he's the one that ordered the hit or like let someone else do it. It's the same concept, which is this guy did not like certain people, did not want them around. And by the way, I think I would have been on that list too. The only thing that saved me was he was coming in as a .com hire. And at the
Mhm.
time, I don't know if this is still the case, but it was different. It was different playgrounds, right? .com was one, production was a different one. And my agent, through immense foresight that had nothing to do with Adrian, had me switched from a .com contract to a production deal. And
Mm.
had I still been .com, I would have been out too, for sure.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me to want the power but not the responsibility for it. And I guess this is a character study of one man, and that's why I find it intriguing. It's not interesting that he wanted it done. What's interesting is not wanting the reputation for doing it. What's
I
interesting
yeah,
is he called me after I was fired and everybody was talking about this is why it happened. My CAA agent was telling me that I was in trouble because of it, and he sounded nervous and he was just hemming and hawing and he was telling me that he didn't get me fired. And I have to say it was in a way I didn't believe, but it was just interesting to me that somebody would maybe hate me enough to get me fired, but they wouldn't want me to know that and they wouldn't want other people to know that and that would be a big deal to them.
yeah. You know, I'm interested in something you said earlier about him changing the way ESPN did business, and I think you're right. I don't want to. He absolutely did that, right? And it started with a very simple shift, right? The shift of the metric being going from ratings to social media
Yeah.
and the inability of leadership at ESPN to parse what is a meaningful number. They took numbers as numbers. What I mean by that is if I say something on Twitter and 7 million people retweet it, that's a pretty impressive thing, right? But what does that actually mean? And specifically, what does it mean to our business, right? Because the reality is that whatever is said on Twitter, while that is nice to do well there, it does not impact the business of ESPN unless what was said on Twitter converted
Yeah.
people to go to the website, to click through to whatever. I think that, and I'm not blaming or putting that on Adrian, I think just the rise of social media and older people in charge were like, what does it mean? Well, that must mean good. and just taking that to be the thing
Yeah.
rather than understanding what all of these numbers meant. It shifted the resources from things that are meaningful to let's be first. When he says that ESPN wasn't good at breaking news, it's patently false. If Adrian says something and 60 seconds or 30 seconds or 45 seconds or even hell a minute later, another news outlet breaks the news. What are we talking about here? What how does that impact ESPN's bottom line? Right? If I hear Luka Doncic got traded, I'm not gonna say, wait a second, which outlet said it? Whoop, Yahoo won by 30 seconds. Gonna go to yahoosports.com.
Forever, for the rest of my life.
For the rest of my life. It doesn't matter. Because what we're talking about inherently is not news. And this is longtime listeners will know I've done this speech a lot, right? Paul George getting traded to the Clippers.
Yeah.
That's not news. And I'll explain why. Had there been a genie that said, poof, I've made all newsbreakers go away. There's no Adrian, there's no Mark Stein, no Mark Spears, none of them. They're all gone. How would we know that Paul George got traded to the Clippers?
The Clippers would announce it.
Press release, a press conference. Hey, we just acquired Paul George. Okay. Genie comes back and says, you know what? I'm going to be an extra asshole. Not only are there no newsbreakers, poof, there are no press conferences or press releases or PR people. How would you know that Paul George was a Clipper?
Oh my God, that's Paul George in the Clippers uniform.
Yeah, the first time you watch a Clipper game, you're like, whoa, he's a Clipper. When did that happen? It's not news if you were going to find out one way or another. How did Steph Curry end up at Under Armour? We all know the story now, but how did we find out? Did Under Armour put out a press release? Was it something that one newsbreaker put out and then everyone else started putting out because they all heard it because Steph told everybody individually at certain times so that we would get a casket? Is that why? No, we found out because one intrepid reporter said, I'm going to look into this. This is interesting. Wait, how did this happen? I'm going to talk to people. I'm going to interview people. I'm going to get in the room stories of how Nike fucked up the presentation. And that's how we found out. That, ladies and gentlemen, is news. When Seth Wickersham wrote about Bill Belichick and Tom Brady hate each other, dog, I never knew that and would have never known. I would have never known had Seth Wickersham not written this incredible piece. When was it Don Van Natta who did the Tiger Woods one about him idolizing special ops and doing what? Because
no, I think that was Wright. I think Wright wrote that one.
Right, Thompson, right? Ladies and gentlemen, that's news. When you find out things that no one was going to know. This was a secret, or at best, if not a secret, just something that people didn't talk about. That's news. Who's playing where? Who got drafted? This is all ephemeral bullshit that nobody cares about. Hey, was it Karl Anthony Towns was the number 1 overall pick in 2014. Who broke that? Who broke that on?
John Carl.
You don't know and you don't care. You don't care who broke it because you might guess, oh, it's Adrian because Adrian did that shit all the time. But the reality is it doesn't matter. It didn't change your life one way or another because you found out when Adam Silver walked out there on the podium and said it.
I'm dipping into my Colin Cowherd. I just find myself dipping into the Colin Cowherd imitation all the time now. That sort of breaking story, that's new, but it's not news. There's new, and then there's news. Mike Weisberg. People have been patiently waiting. We got to get some of these questions. We got some ESPN topics. We are a half hour into this. We might need to speed it up. So I apologize to anybody if I boot you out of here quick. It's nothing personal, but Mike, what do you got for us?
Appreciate you guys having me on. I'll be quick as a result. So I think you guys are touching on something really important, which is the idea that Woj came in at this weird time of being first was the most important thing. Don't get me wrong, and that's certainly how he got hired at ESPN. I think the more interesting thing is at the same time they hired Omar from House of Highlights. And the transition fully to digital has made a massive change in terms of the way that ESPN has approached news. And what I mean by that is, and entertainment in general, take a look at ESPN's YouTube page. what gets the most clicks? First take, by and large. Any discussion on NBA today? Do highlights or the actual news get numbers? No, they don't. So, like, I think in terms of process, part of the reason why Woj left, one, he was exhausted, but two, I'm not sure he was as important or relevant.
Brilliant.
Oh,
It's a
for sure.
brilliant insight.
That's Mike.
And also,
that's,
he wasn't very good on TV, but that's a whole other conversation.
but Mike,
he
that
was.
was that was the other thing I said at the time. I said in the continuation, I said, who knows? Who cares? Who told us Karl Anthony Towns got drafted first overall? The reality is, ESPN as the big dog on the block. You really didn't need to break. If that's your definition of news transactions, you didn't need to break any of them, because all we needed was, all right, let's go lie to Stephen A. Smith and Skip, and Stephen A. Smith and Shannon, or Stephen A. Smith and Max, and they're going to talk about it, and that's going to do way better than whatever little tweet or post that someone said that this happened. Cool. I said that it should have been the least valuable thing to them. I said there was only one company that should have been prepared to pay Adrian 8 figures a year, 10 million. I think 10 plus would have been worth it for one company in the world. Twitter.
Yeah.
And Twitter got him for free. Twitter got him for free.
I would actually argue it would have, at the time, sorry, real quick. At the time, it might have been FS1, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beachhead into something. I get it. Yes,
I always just go back to, look, ESPN also had this thing where they were afraid of Deadspin. And Deadspin would say, oh, ESPN didn't credit so-and-so. They just said reports. And I'm like, so the fuck what? Who cares? Yeah, like, as first reported by other outlets, who cares? Right? Yeah. If that was the approach, if Adrian had gone to FS1, he's breaking news over there. But you know what would have happened? You hear the story. Anthony Davis got traded to the Lakers, and then we all would have turned on First Take or whatever, or The Jump or whatever, to give us the explanation. We wouldn't have gone to FS1, because all that would have happened is, as reported first by other outlets, by media outlets, and then you're here at ESPN again. That's the advantage of being the literal worldwide leader in sports, is that when sports happens, people turn you on first. They come to you first, and you didn't need to have a sweetener to make people want to come to you. They're already coming to you nonetheless.
I would agree with that. I'm also trying to imagine First Things First with Woj instead of Chris Broussard, and that's a very amusing image to me. The last thing I'll say about what Mike just said, the last thing I'll say about it, and it's also about what Amin said as well. This idea of chasing the social media dragon without any sort of sense of how you're going to monetize it, you can almost see them exhausting one and going to the other right now, as you're suggesting, because Twitter, we need Twitter. Twitter. Who's the most recent splashy hire ESPN has made? It's a woman by the name
TikTok.
Well, right? Splashy. Katie Feeney, exactly. Took the words out of my mouth. Katie Feeney, 22 years old. I dare say an attractive woman. Huge on social media platforms.
That's a first.
Yeah. Huge on social media platforms I don't use. And at last point I checked, only 1,500 followers on Twitter. That to me is a revelation in a way that they're going, no. That's social media buzz. That's not what matters anymore. It's this other thing that matters. That's what we're chasing. And it always feels like they're just too late, or misunderstanding the moment, or not capturing the thing they need to capture. No offense to Katie Feeney. I don't know much about her, but that's what I see. Thanks so much, Mike. That was great stuff. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
I mean, eventually I want to get to Aaron. Eventually I want to get to Teutonia. I do. We'll stay in the realm. We'll stay in the realm of ESPN. And Trace, I know I said I was going to play a clip of Mark Cuban and Shams. Maybe we'll get to it later, but I think we got to speed this up.
You got to go straight to the jugular with this mural. I couldn't even believe it. You sent it to me, and I was like, "This isn't real. This is a parody account."
I was gonna go Rich Eisen, but let's go mural. Let's go mural.
The mural to me is.
And then we'll take some questions.
Next level.
Trace, can you play the guy talking about the mural, the TikToker guy with the floaty head, which that's so in vogue nowadays? Have him explain.
ESPN's post yesterday, all the icons, all the moments, all of ESPN. This mural was a complete and utter disaster. For a mural that supposedly had, quote unquote, all the icons, a lot of icons in sports were missing. And after getting ratioed by almost everybody online, they've deleted the tweet. So there are a lot of icons on this without a doubt. But what's shocking is there's 3 baseball players, no golfer, no Tiger Woods, no Scotty Scheffler is like the greatest golfer of all time right now, no UFC fighters, 10 WNBA players, one soccer player, all the icons they said, 3 NHL players, none from the team that won back-to-back Stanley Cups, the Florida Panthers. In the bottom, there's Bryce Underwood, who hasn't played a snap in college football. Arch Manning's thrown 90 passes. Again, I mean, the amount of people lacking is shocking. They have this guy from the Last Dance documentary, Mina Kimes, Brian Windhorst, the cast from the WNBA like halftime show. I mean, all the icons one place.
This is you know what's funny? This is an example of, can you read between the lines?
Oh, I have a theory on this, but I want to hear yours.
Let me hear your theory, because to me it's very. By the way, shout out to Simon B in the chat. He said they forgot the green dildo. That's funny. I laughed. This. I'll tell you my theory. Everything promoted and everything devalued comes down to one thing. I know a lot of people are going to run to, oh, it's gender, gender politics.
I like this theory. I know where you're going with it.
It's not that at all. Is this a property that
yes
ours or not? So
the rights, man.
Everything about rights. UFC, it's going to Paramount Plus. Fuck them. We're not putting anything on there, right? Baseball, yeah, we're getting out of that. Baseball tonight's over. Boom. Kill that, right? Oh, WNBA, this exploding product that we bought into more, absolutely put as many and put the analysts in there, put all that stuff. This is all about the shit that they have money on and the shit that they don't. They don't have money on hockey. They have minimal money on hockey, minimal money on baseball, no money on UFC anymore. Golf, take it or leave it. This is all about trying to link up with their business interests.
Yeah. You might think it's about women's rights. You might think it's about civil rights. No. It's about TV rights, media rights, folks. That's what's going on here.
That almost turned it to Radio Ethan, except it was a point too nuanced for him to make.
I mean, I think that's what's happening. I thought when I saw it too, is this an AI generation? And that's why it got all gobbledygook. But no, and that is a revelation of a change in ESPN strategy that perhaps subtle but noticeable. And it's something that maybe if you're somebody who has gone to the ESPN.com homepage, you've almost taken it in without noticing it, which is that you will have a massive NFL game that's maybe on NBC or whatever. And instead, the front page will be WNBA or some other property that's not as popular because a couple years ago, the mandate changed. It used to be you go to ESPN.com to figure out what's happening in the sports world. After they really gutted the place and they stopped caring about it as an information source, apologies to anybody there who's still doing great work. I know you exist. I think Brian Windhorst deserves to be on that mural, by the way. Love that. But they've gutted so much of it and they turned it into a property almost like they got a private equity consultation that you've got to gut this and everything you do with it has to be about pumping up the interest in the TV product. That's what this has to be.
Stuff that we have. This is all about the stuff that we have. We have this stuff that you have to pay attention to it. That's it.
Yeah.
By the way, as an aside, when Ethan sent it to me and he said, oh, there's only 3 baseball players on there, I could not identify the third guy. I looked at it. I said, I know that's Shohei. I know that's Aaron Judge. I don't know who the third guy is. And I said, maybe I'm the wrong demographic. But then I was like, wait a second. Maybe I'm the right demographic. Because if I can't identify, then clearly you're not famous enough. Who is the third guy? The guy in the Braves uniform.
I like that you're Rick pairing Ronald Acuna is what I think.
Acuna. This is how I know Ronald Acuna. I know Ronald Acuna from Bryce Harper talking shit to fans about how to pronounce it correctly. Acuna. Acuna. But
I
I don't
think
know
it's
what he
him,
looks
by the
like.
way.
But again, this comes back to my whole thing about baseball is Ronald Acuna could walk in right now and slap me, and I'd be like, "Oh my God, who's this guy that slap?" He could be walking with a Braves hat on. I'm like, the man in a Braves hat. I still wouldn't know. I went to Cubs Reds a couple weeks ago in Chicago. Went to first time at Wrigley. Beautiful thing. Da da da. And I was like, "This is amazing." I know that the Reds have a dude who's supposed to be God's
Yeah.
gift to fucking. Oh no, that was it. I went to that. I went to Marlins Padres like a month ago. And like I know, is it Vlad Jr. plays for the Padres? Or no,
The Blue
Tatis.
Jays. His name out
Tatis.
Tatis.
No, Tatis, yeah, Tatis, right? So I'm like, okay, Tatis, like, let's see Tatis's kid. He's great, right? And I sat and I watched the whole game, all 9 innings. He walked, and when he was in the outfield, the ball never came his way. And I said, that's the problem with baseball. I said, if you're trying to sell this thing to someone who doesn't know shit, if I say, hey man, you need to watch basketball, come sit down and watch basketball with me. What are we gonna watch? We're gonna watch the Lakers. I'm gonna see LeBron James do something incredible. But chances are, at least one thing, like, oh my God, did you see that? That was incredible. If I say let's watch football, let's watch the Chiefs. I would see Patrick Mahomes do something incredible. Baseball is the only sport where like I can get a ticket to a game and watch the entire game, and there's no guarantee that there's going to be any action towards my guy. It might just be that whole game he stood out there in center field and nothing came his way. And
Yeah.
so
It's incremental productivity that is invisible to the naked eye in many instances. But if you get a ticket to a Brewers game, that young pitcher they have with the Polish sounding name is going to be throwing triple digits. I guess you could say that's a reliable, impressive feat, I suppose. I'm not going to dump on baseball, especially since we're going to take a question from Aaron Reyes, who I think is a big Dodgers fan, if memory serves, I believe.
Yep. No, I'm a big Dodger fan.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, both of you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
Yep.
beautifully.
Great. So you guys sort of stole my thunder around. It's really about rights. It always has been. I think the problem with ESPN is that it sort of constructed a contract with us that I'm a big Bloomberg watcher. Like if you ever watch Bloomberg TV, I always have it, like I literally just have it on all the time. But so, it's just like background noise to me. And ESPN was sort of that way, right? It had its almost total information contract with us around sports, and we were lulled into thinking that it was maintaining almost a judicial objectivity, right? That it was there to sort of parse whatever was going on big in sports, at least in the United States. And then as we sort of became more international, if you remember in the 90s, especially the 2000s, there was this sort of ESPN, what do you call it, Deportes, where it was sort of really pushing. And it really did feel like it was trying to be sort of the global Wall Street Journal for sports. I mean, and with that had the responsibility of sort of, serious reporting, and then it had its sort of rights business, which was almost like, well, that's our like market data stuff that we do, right? We win some, we lose some, but it doesn't really matter because we're just going to cover what matters. And that shifted, I think, obviously pretty radically in the last 10 years. And I think a lot of this has to do with how Disney's governance over ESPN really just, I think in some ways sort of broke the place.
That's a good take.
And also just the way we consume sports now, and the personalities. And then I think one last little piece, which I think both of you were there for, so you'll know what I mean by this. So I have friends, and I live in North Jersey, so I actually had very good friends of mine who actually lived right down the street from Woj and Glen Rock, actually. So, but I didn't know him or anything like that. But it was just like, so I'm in this sort of near ecosystem. And a good friend of mine works at ESPN, which I'll just leave nameless. But something ESPN did, if you guys remember, about 10 years ago or so, is literally have the worst website in the history of consumer products. It was this thick, horrible, it wouldn't render well. It was too too many color layers. It was awful on your phone, and they took years to try to clean that up. And I think that was happening at the same time when, as consumers, we were all just running to clean what was clean for then. These clean apps that were, we could order stuff on Amazon, we could go watch stuff, that the videos from YouTube, whatever.
Yeah.
And so there was like this moment that it was this disconnect over a few years between losing that objectivity, just their web products were just awful. And they kind of seemed not to care. And then you wound up having this shift on Disney governance, and it just really corroded, I think, the whole product in the end, to the point that I think you almost have to relaunch. If you wanted to save it in some older version, you'd have to relaunch it, or you spin it down and turn it into a rights platform, gut the place, and just make it basically revenue generating, and that's it. And you get rid of all this other.
So this is the part where the only thing I'm going to push back on you is that I don't think Disney's governance ever changed. I think Disney's governance was like Ray Liotta and Goodfellas, right? You got a problem, we'll take care of it, but at the end, you got to pay me. Oh, the shipment didn't come in. I don't care. Pay me. Oh, the thing of it, and like just that, and that's what it was. Disney let ESPN be what it was because it was the single most profitable arm of Disney, bar none. More than the cruises, more than the movies, more than Pixar, more than the parks, more than the merchandising, Mickey Mouse on everything. None of those were as profitable as ESPN, and the reason for that was because they had the thing where it's like, hey, do you have cable? Guess what? You got ESPN, and you paid extra for
Yeah,
it.
they had
But
the rights, of course.
Right.
But once carriage broke, and we've gone to the
yeah.
streaming world.
But that's what I'm saying. Disney never changed. They just said, hey, it's a little light this week. What's happening? And so that like, I don't care how you do it. I care that you make it happen. You were making it happen before. You're not making it happen now.
But
like Ray Liotta.
I mean, I think we're all saying the same thing in a way. Like once they lost that advantage and the spigot got turned off, I think the governance went in and they didn't know how to make the thing better, but they needed to do something. And I think a lot of things are like that.
Well, and one last point. Then I think the big shift is that sports rights became league rights, and they became financialized as part of the league value. And that transformed the whole revenue model, because now you can have F1 going direct to you. You can have NBA.com or MLB, or like I get MLB because it's free through T-Mobile, and it's great. So for those of you who don't like baseball, it doesn't matter. It doesn't. Like, you could watch it when you want to, or just look at the highlights, which are great. I mean, they have their own version.
Trying to sell you on baseball, Amin. Just a little bit.
Well, no. What I would do is
you can enjoy it.
I would, last point on that. I would like what city are you most from in the United States that you feel you have the biggest affinity to?
The city I have the biggest affinity to is New York, but the city I live it's probably Phoenix. I live in Phoenix.
A Phoenix guy.
I live in Phoenix. I love Phoenix, but like when it comes to, I self-identify as a Yankees fan.
Okay. So what I would recommend is, like last night I was at the Yankees Red Sox game here, is that next time you're in town, if it's in the summer or whatever, and there is Yankee Red Sox, go in the bleachers, stand up in the bleachers for $40, and they give you free beer, and just do Yankee Red Sox. It doesn't really matter what's going on the field. That college ball vibe is very real.
Aaron, I love
Dodger fan, but I go to Yankee Red Sox.
I went to game one of the World Series. I love going to baseball games.
Yeah.
But again, I always marvel at the idea that, like, if I'm gonna fall in love with this sport, who's the player that's gonna make me fall in love? Because whenever I go watch whoever that guy is, nothing. My bad luck. I've seen Mike Trout play live. I've seen show. So I'll give you an example. I went to game one. Freddie Freeman doing what he did. That's some shit that's gonna live with me forever. I had the video of me taping the at bat, and I heard how hard he hit the ball, and you could see my phone go down because I knew by just the sound of the bat that one was gone.
I think one problem baseball has, like others, there's some sports like this. If you grow up playing the sport, your ability to enjoy it, and if you have kids that play, whether baseball, softball, whatever, that goes up dramatically. If you don't play the sport and you're a new entrant, it's sort of like golf. I mean, I'm sure there's some people who watch golf who don't play, it just watch it, but like who like don't play at all, like because
Yeah,
they're
yeah, I'm
because
not.
what we're really saying, the A/B test here is, can I take a person who cannot pick up a bat and
Hmm.
hit 20-mile-an-hour batting practice, like they just have no coordination, and will they like baseball? And the odds are it's pretty low unless their kids into it. And baseball is one of those sports that if you grow up in a culture on the East Coast or through the Caribbean, and
Hmm.
DRPR, Colombia now because of Venezuela, or a little bit on the West Coast, and maybe a little bit of that old belt in the middle of the country, then you still have some baseball culture. But if you don't have that, it's almost it's a weird sport to get into, actually.
I keep going back to, because I got lucky. I went and saw the game where Freddie Freeman did something amazing.
Yeah.
But I keep thinking, like, there's 100 games where nothing happened. Literally not that he had a bad game, just nothing happens. And that's the hard part, to sell to people. You got to be there just in case something amazing happens. That's why I like going in person, because there's the crowd, there's alcohol, there's enough to keep you distracted.
Last quick point. I jokingly call baseball to people who don't like it or don't will never be able to get it as team golf. Who doesn't get it and doesn't want to get it? Because golf is meditating for people who are into golf, like big time.
Yeah.
But if you're not, you just look at it as like this is paint
People,
drying.
yes,
Well,
that's
I
exactly how I
like all
feel.
those takes. Aaron, you were brilliant and correct as always. We do have to kick you out though,
Yes.
because we need to get to whether Rich Eisen was being a poignant empath friend, or if he was, and this is a term coined by Amin. I don't want this on me.
Yeah.
Oh, look at me, Louie. I do love the whole distinction though that Amin, before we get to that, as we round the bend. I like this idea of enjoying going to baseball but not following baseball. That's it's a sport you
It's
go to, but it's a
it's a fun
Colin Cowherd
experience.
thing right there.
It's
You
a fun
know,
experience.
I go to the Louvre. I don't follow what's happening at the museum.
That's
Anywho,
pretty good, man. That's a good one.
anywho, anywho. Rich Eisen, Trace, can you pull up the art of my own article? May I be so self-indulgent as to do a thing like that? I wrote something on my Substack. Subscribe today, ladies and gentlemen. It was Rich Eisen's ESPN Remembrance of Stuart Scott. Now, Rich Eisen of the NFL Network, kind of a graybeard over there. Well known broadcaster, been there for decades, used to be on ESPN, used to be an anchor. They bring him back because there's this merger of ESPN and NFL Network, ESPN and the NFL generally, which is a story in of itself. So Eisen is back in the building. The ratings on a relative basis, tremendous. It
Yes.
seems like a huge hit, and he did this emotional remembrance of the departed, of the deceased Stuart Scott. Huge hit. Amin, you said you read this article by me.
Hmm.
I felt like you insinuated I was holding back in some respects, unless I misread you. I'm interested in this whole ESPN is still around, but it's almost selling nostalgia of ESPN. What say you?
Yeah, I think the way you wrote it, it was a weird kind of retrospective of like Stuart Scott's place in ESPN history. And to me, it wasn't that. It was just Rich Eisen reaching for low hanging fruit. Stuart Scott was his Keith Olbermann to his Dan Patrick or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I'm having my first show back. I'm not holding back. I need these numbers to be incredible. So what are we going to do? We're going to remember someone who's beloved, who was my partner when I did this show back then. And I think it was just that's all it was, right? There was
Mm.
no reason to do it. It wasn't like the anniversary of Stuart Scott's passing or the last show that they did or anything like that. It was just like, I'm gonna do my first show. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna remember my buddy Stuart with more than just a passing. I miss Stuart Scott being here. Like, no, this is a produced bit that we're going to do, but there is no occurrence to call for it other than I know this will do numbers. And I think it was to me that's all it was. You seem to read way more into it than that, and I was
Yeah, I overanalyze things.
yeah.
I just
It's,
like
particularly one of the things you said in there that I took. You were like, oh, it's not. ESPN was always kind of freewheeling, and everything that I've heard from those people was like and the people who are at ESPN at the time, it's the exact opposite. It's the things that first Keith and Dan did, and even Craig Kilborn, if you want to go a little further back, and then obviously Stuart Scott and Rich Eisen. It was in spite of what the people upstairs at Bristol, people upstairs at Bristol were pissed all the time.
they were
And
like
then,
Paul Giamatti in that Howard Stern movie.
yeah, yes, exactly. What are you doing? Yeah, exactly, right? Like the program manager, the
What
program
is
manager.
this?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how they were. So everything those guys did was in spite of, and to the point where it was like, if this happens again, there are going to be consequences, and somewhere along the line, success happens, and then that protects them from said consequences.
We've got an anchor quoting lyrics from
Yeah.
Big Pun.
And again, and the other thing about it, and so this is where I plug my show, Cinephobe. Get it wherever you get podcasts. We watch movies that are poorly rated on Rotten Tomatoes. Um, Sometimes there are things that are cliche, and then sometimes there are things that are cliche to us now.
I love
So
that.
Stuart Scott feels cringe, as you called it, but that's because you have the benefit, the advantage of living in an era where there's no shortage of people quoting shit all the time, often times in way cooler ways than Stuart Scott did. But you cannot leave aside the idea that no, that's the guy that started doing that shit on a mainstream platform, and it inspired and allowed for everything else. It's like watching Bill Russell play and be like, "Oh, we cook his ass." Oh man, it's like you can't say that because back then there was nothing like it. You're looking at the originators of certain things, right? And as a result, man, this is almost exactly to the T an argument I had with you years ago about Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas, the Detroit Piston.
Yeah.
You said Isaiah Thomas wouldn't be any good in today's NBA because he shot 21% from three. And
I
I
did
said to you,
okay. That's not what. Okay, I don't know if
yeah,
I said all that. I don't know if
you
I
said
want that cake
you
hung
said a
over
lot of
my
it.
head.
But I explained to you, you wrote it. You didn't just say it, you wrote it.
Oh
And I
no.
remember
Uh-uh.
I remember telling you, Ethan, when Isaiah Thomas was growing up in high school, there was no three-point line. He went to college, there was no three-point line. The first time Isaiah Thomas saw a three-point line was as an NBA player. And what was every coach in the NBA saying? That's a gimmick. We only take that shot like if it's short clock situation, we're down two or down one or whatever. That's the only time. So if all your life you've never even had to worry about this thing, and then you get to the place where it's at, and everyone's like, "Don't even worry about it."
Hmm.
What there was nothing to indicate that he would have been a bad three-point shooter had he just been introduced to the concept of a three-point
I
line.
I don't disagree. And not to be defensive, I think I said some of the things I said back in the day because when you're younger, you just want to tear down those old gods. There's that impulse that yeah, they're false idols. The new is better. And when you get some perspective, you understand it's those cliches about how people stand on the shoulders of giants, that you have to evolve, that the past needs to be credited or the present we're living in is valueless. So it's ridiculous to look back and dismiss it. And I will say, Isaiah Thomas, I was almost won over by an episode of Open Court, Amin, as you try to
Mm-hmm.
rearrange the space behind you, where these players from the 90s and 80s were talking about the old moves. I'd recommend this to any of you watching this. If you are a basketball junkie, go on YouTube and look up an episode of Open Court on moves. I think Grant Hill was on it. I
Mm-hmm.
think Steve Smith was on it.
Mm-hmm.
Isaiah Thomas was on it. And the way they're talking about some of the best moves they saw, it's that pre-internet, it's that analog, it's that word of mouth. It's I saw a guy doing this. It's man, I'm trying to even think about it. The Smitty move,
Spinning from
the
the city.
Steve
Yep.
Smith, it's like a fake spin move
Mm-hmm.
sort of deal. And I think some other guy in Detroit was doing it, and then he started doing it, and he became the guy associated with it. And the guy who did it first went to a game and was calling out to him from the stands, and they connected that way, but it was just so. I'm looking for the right term for it. We say mom and pop
Yeah.
shop with the ownership, what it was like, but it was like
Yeah.
that. And they had to really learn about these things. And Isaiah Thomas, he just struck me as such an incredible student of the game. And I didn't know that his machine gun dribbling drill was so influential to kids across the Midwest, if not greater America. So that's a digression I didn't expect to take. I'm sorry to Isaiah Thomas. I didn't expect getting there of me.
There you go. I
Yeah.
got the apology I was looking for all
There
these
we
years.
go. There we go. I also love the Smitty. What a great move. They
Yeah.
were all enamored. I know we have to wrap up right now, but we're getting into a little bit of basketball. These guys love the Sigma. You know the Sigma? You know
The
that one?
reverse pivot inside reverse pivot. Yeah.
No, they're like the little like pump fake, but over your head. The over your
Overhead.
head
Yeah.
pump fake,
But
you
it
know?
starts with the reverse pivot. I don't, like we say he invented it. I don't think he invented it, but he certainly popularized it, right? Like he catch
Mhm.
and instead of catching and pivoting this way, he would catch and like inside pivot. And so that
Yeah.
threw everybody off. And then he's tall, he keeps the ball high, and then he shot from right up here. So it was
Yeah.
kind of like it looked like he was like, am I gonna pass it? Psych, I'm shooting this shit. And that's I mean, but like that's the beauty of the NBA, man, is that it's all building on shit that other people did before. So it's like you watch um you watch a guy do a one-legged shot. It's like, where'd you get it from? Well, I got that from Kevin Durant. And Kevin Durant's like, well, I got that from Dirt. Right.
Yeah.
And it just keeps going and going back in the same way that guys right now, point guards, like, who did you study? I studied Chris Paul. I'm like, well, Chris Paul, who did you study? He said, I studied Steve Nash. Steve Nash, who did you study? I studied Isaiah Thomas. And it's like it's just this continuous thread throughout all of it. And that's why bringing it back to Stuart Scott, it's not about like whether it was hokey or not. It's that at the time nobody was doing that shit, but because he did it, it led to other people being able to do it and build on it and be better at it and be cooler at it and et cetera, et cetera.
I think that's the right perspective of me. I think we gave the right perspective overall in all of this. I thought you did a great job. Some would accuse us of bitterness in the early moments of the show, and to them I say maybe, but we try to make it broad. We try to make it a commentary. We try to make it a character study, or at least I do.
I
Fantastic questions from all of you.
yeah.
Yes, I mean,
No, I was gonna say I don't know. Is it bitter to be truthful? So I guess I'm a bitter. Someone says X, and I know the truth to be Y, and I say, wait a second, it's not X, it's Y.
yeah.
Is that bitter?
I don't know. I
Should I
don't
just
know.
let it? Should I just let it go?
It's
Should
the
I just let it
internet.
slide?
It's the internet. They make their own judgments. Whatever, whatever. I think it's good content. See you next time at this new time, this 11 a.m. Pacific
Oh,
time, 2
let me
p.m.
plug
Eastern.
my stuff. Basketball
Oh, yes,
Illuminati,
yes, yes,
Basketball
yes.
Illuminati,
Plug.
Basketball Illuminati. Say it three
Yes.
times, keeps your third eye open. We do stories that aren't done anywhere else. We do it differently than everybody else is doing it. If you want basketball, but you don't want like just the transactions and who's better type of talk, check out Basketball Illuminati. Uh, Cinephobe, as I said, movies poorly rated on Rotten Tomatoes. Try to figure out whether they're accurately rated or maybe they didn't get a fair shake. This week we did The Phantom, starring Billy Zane and Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Wow.
So there's that, and then there is an upcoming, soon to be found, bar rescue review show called "Here's the Science." Be on the look if you ever watch Bar Rescue and you like that show and you want to have some laughs. Me and Zach are doing a new show called "Here's the Science." It's coming soon. Yes, new show, Mike
Trem-
Weisberg.
Tremendous stuff. Now this is the awkward part where I say the show is over and I stare at the camera, not knowing when the feed is out.
You
The
just
show
keep
is
talking.